was coming. I think someone was coming, but I don't know who or when.
It's quite difficult to enter into what it might be like exactly when your body is starting to break down until you're actually experiencing it. But you can see it in the people who you love and who are close to you, this decrepitude, this breaking down of the body. My ambition for this piece of work is really to try to allow you to assimilate what it might be to be the person who has become incapacitated and fallen and is near death and is waiting for death or trying to escape death.
Fabrica's exhibition for this autumn is called Careless. It's an exhibition which looks at our relationship to caring in the context of a society which is also concerned about ageing. It's a thematic which is so at the heart of who we are as human beings, and yet it's not really been looked at very much in culture. It's a new commission for artist Lindsay Seers, and this commission has been produced in response to some groundbreaking new research that's being led by University of Brighton, working in partnership with University of Birmingham and University of Lincoln.
So the research we're doing is called Older People, Care and Self-Funding Experiences. It's been funded by the Wellcome Trust and it's taking place in Brighton and Hove, Solihull and Lincolnshire. It's basically all about trying to understand how older people who have to pay for their own care are actually finding that care, working out what it is they need and managing that process themselves. Because of all the cuts that have happened, fewer people are getting help from the local authorities. So it isn't just a question of people having to pay for their care, which often comes as quite a surprise because we mainly sort of think that healthcare and social care are the same thing. So we obviously get our healthcare through the NHS. Social care is different. It's always been means tested. It's always been provided through a local authority. So it's a question of people probably not having even thought about care until they need it. And there's quite a lot of resistance to the idea that we need somebody to maybe help us get dressed or go to the toilet or help us eat. And then there's the question of, well, who's going to provide that care? What should I be looking for? How much should I pay? How do you actually find the care that you need or even work out what care you do need? So the kinds of things that people are telling us about finding their own care is that there isn't necessarily the kind of services that they would like. The idea that you have a choice, which is what the policy is based on, that you can choose what you want, doesn't seem to be holding true, in that you can't necessarily have a choice about what time your carer comes, even what gender your carer is. But what is interesting is that people are very reluctant to complain about that. So a lot of the older people that we've been speaking to actually have quite a lot of concern for the care workers that are coming to see them, because they know that they're working, for low wages, they're not getting their fares paid, and they're not getting treated possibly particularly well by their employers. So that makes them even more reluctant, I think, to exercise their choice, because they don't want to get the care worker into trouble. The other thing that people are talking about, because they're paying for their own care, is a fear that, will I have enough money? Nobody knows how much care they're going to need in that part of their life. So there's a lot of issues really that people are having to deal with that are quite complex.
It's a work about how do we as a society deal with and think about old age, and how do we care and support those who are reaching the end of life. It's the 360-degree point of view, so you're wearing a headset and you can see in a multidimensional sense. The thing that's quite powerful about that is that it's a very embodied experience, so you feel it, you feel as if it's really happening. When you come into the gallery, you'll be led into a waiting zone. Then you're in a room that has a big sculpture in the centre of it, which is a polyhedron. It's this really strange, asymmetrical geometric form. And then there's a shadow play that's going over the top of it. I was wanting to draw together this phenomenon of the VR in relation to this more historic versions, such as the Victorian panorama or the phantasmagoria. It has this sense of spectacle, but I want to move beyond spectacle into something that's more to do with questioning our ethics and how our society is structured itself. What you'll see in the VR environment is reflected in the room outside. So at the opening sequence, you'll see this geometric form again. It floats in front of you and leads you into the body of a church. And you're starting to lead into two characters. One is an avatar from the future who is looking at our society and its structures. And then there's an emotional, affective voice of an older woman who's fallen on a bathroom floor. So she's subject to the conditions that our society has imposed upon her. So this phenomenal feeling, this embodied feeling that you get from the VR, I'm hoping it's going to help you think about what it is actually going to mean about old age, because it's something that we think is never going to happen to us. You know, oh, I'll die young, you know, live fast, die young, or you're going to escape it. But that's not, we're living longer and longer, and not necessarily a fulfilled longer, but a longer that's sustained by medical care that is actually becoming more and more inadequate. So I think within the work, the voices are trying to just say, what are we doing? And is this the right thing to do? It's asking these questions and using this embodied filmic medium to try to make it vivid. When I was awarded this commission, there was a period of time where I just came to meet the 3 research groups, to just sit in on meetings. I was listening to them talking about their experiences of interviewing people who were talking about the care system and how they were experiencing it, and people who are falling out of the NHS remit. But the stories that they were telling were very familiar to me, because I'd also been looking after my father who needed care, and the ways in which everybody was suffering from the shortfallings of the possibilities of care was being mirrored in my own life. So it was quite an intense move between being with someone who was in this phase of dying and also making an artwork about that process at the same time.
The theme of care is at the heart of this project, both the research and the artist commission. It's what we do as a species for ourselves, our communities, our bodies and our environment to create a world or an environment that we can live well in. Care is so central to all our lives. What's happening in social care at the moment is a scandal. So it's about highlighting the research, it's about highlighting the question about what kind of society do we want to live in? How do we care for ourselves in the longer term? How do we develop the institutions of care?
I mean, what we're really hoping is that it promotes a discussion and widens the debate around care in a way that is much broader, that actually makes people think maybe more philosophically about the issues of care. And we're using art as a way of trying to provoke that discussion.
Art offers a place where you can think about your thought processes. So it's a self-reflexivity where you're questioning. You're not just moving through life accepting things that we daily just move through. We don't deconstruct that very often. But the artwork does, you're asking the question, is this real? Is this not real? Where does it come from? What are they trying to tell me? So I think that it raises a lot of questions that I think you need to think about, particularly the future voice, who is just absolutely bemused by how we're running our lives. I think I just want to make the questions vivid. I don't know what the answers are.